By George, I think I've got it.
Hybrothetical Thinking.
I saw that Bigfoot walking across the screen and I thought to myself, wow, they are real.
I ask us all, is that really reasonable?
Hybrothetical Thinking.
My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
I'll show you a little of the evidence.
Hybrothetical Thinking.
Researchers at Stanford University School of Medicine have pioneered a cancer vaccine that eliminated all traces of cancer in mice.
You could find evidence of that, my friends. You could change the world.
Hybrothetical Thinking, a podcast for the hypothetical thinker.
Greetings, travelers, and welcome to Hybrothetical Thinking, a semi-informative podcast that explores the journey from probability to possibility. My name is Nick Floyd, and I'm joined by co-hosts
Taylor Nelson here.
Jonathan Clark here.
So the way this works is that either Taylor or myself will do the research weekly for each episode, and then Johnny is going to go into every episode completely blind, which means he has no idea what we're going to be covering each week.
No idea.
Which is exciting. So without further ado,
I like this little twist.
It's like a lemon zest, little 7-Up.
Interesting.
Little Sprite 7. It's all the same damn thing. 7-Up, Sprite, Pepsi. No. See, you just threw in the one thing that's different from the.
That's me, guys.
Something that's not flavored with lime.
Pepsi.
So without further ado, today's episode is based on someone we know and love, someone near and dear to, at least I know, Taylor and my hearts. It's the man himself, Bigfoot. So we're talking about Bigfoot today. Sasquatch, the Yeti. What do you know about Bigfoot, Johnny?
Oh, I don't know a lot. I'll tell you what. I will say I started this year, I guess a couple months ago, as a very skeptical person, non-believer. But after talking to some people, I'm now, I would say, skeptical and wanting to know more information. I'm not necessarily a believer, but I like to dabble. I don't know a whole lot. I just know that they're big and they're hairy, and there's a couple stories that seem plausible.
You can see there's some weight to some of these stories. There's something to believe.
There's conviction in people's eyes, and I will tell you what. All these 8-bit videos traveling around do not have me convinced.
8-bit videos are they? What the fuck, Johnny?
They're all the ones I've seen are really.
Is Nintendo coming out with?
That's just it's an example. That's not the actual quality. They just look crap. That's what I'm saying.
Atari is put every Bigfoot video Johnny's seen has been on an Atari.
Why Sega has fallen because they did not get into the Sasquatch.
What I'm saying is
game.
like crap. They're not nothing like I'm saying any random person who's gonna get a video, pull their phone, it's 4K video. Why are all these videos look like crap? That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying.
That's a good point.
All I know is that
I will say this, Johnny, about the 4K cell phone stuff. I've got an LG Stylo 2. One would say it's a pretty sweet phone. Okay, it was purchased in 2017. Sweet phone. I could pop this phone out of my pocket at any given moment. I could spend 30 seconds, 2 minutes trying to catch a photo, and it would be the most blurry, out of focus, piece of shit photo you've ever seen. When I'm sitting here trying to take a portrait with it, with this brand new smartphone. So, I don't know. I think in the heat of the moment, somebody's in the woods, they're freaking out because they know they see a Sasquatch. It's tough to pull that phone out and get a cinematic
I get
shot.
what you're saying.
But when it's moving too, so you have to take into account of that.
Okay. But people can take videos of freaking birds in the sky that are much better than a Sasquatch. It's big, it's scary, it could kill you. All these things are fine. I get that. But the videos I have seen, 10, 20 videos I've seen, the documentation I've seen, it just seems like whoever's making it is intentionally making it bad. Like, your phone's crap. I'll give you that. I understand that. But I don't know the stats, but there's probably millions of people who have iPhones that at least shoot 1080p. Yeah, I'm not a resolution whore. I'm just saying
that's a good point. But for every good video that does come out,
I've never seen one
somewhat clear. Yeah, you just deny it. It's just like, oh no, that couldn't be real. That's too clear. That's too
I would
good
not do that.
You know?
I mean, you say that.
Maybe you wouldn't, but I feel like the average naysayer probably would.
Like, this footage is
too
good.
That's the main thing you hear about these good videos.
Yeah, there's
it's too good. It's either too good or too bad.
Okay, I can agree with that.
There's a standard for Bigfoot, like what Bigfoot videos should look like now, and the standard is that all of them should look shitty.
It's always going to be this bad?
Or it's bad, yeah.
So, like, in 2030...
If it's shittier, if it's nicer than the shitty average, then it's like too good to be.
If it's nicer than the shitty average, it's a scale.
So that's good. It's good to know because Taylor and I stand sort of arm in arm with being believers. I mean, I had an experience with a Bigfoot when I was about 13.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, fun fact.
What kind of experience are you talking?
I saw a hand, but my friend saw the entire thing in the woods when I was like 13 years old up in the panhandle of Florida.
Sounds hot.
So I'm Taylor and I are both very much believers about this. So hopefully in this journey that we're going to take, we'll turn Johnny. We'll push him over the edge. So
I'm
to speak.
susceptible. I'm definitely easily to turn. Peer pressure is my weak point. You guys could easily turn me to a believer.
And Taylor, you're.
I feel like you want to believe.
Yeah, he does want to believe.
I want to believe in so much stuff. I just can't push myself over that edge with the knowledge I have. That's what you guys are here for.
Yeah. Well, Taylor, you're a believer as well, which is why we bond over this subject.
I'm a believer. I have a hard time. It's the numbers thing for me. It's like there are so many species out there, different kinds of animals. New species are discovered constantly. There's a lot of land out there that people aren't exploring. It just seems to me like there's got to be something else out there. Why wouldn't there be? Why is it so far fetched? There's a giant ape-like creature out there in the North Georgia mountains. That doesn't seem too far fetched. There's a lot of big other hairy things out in the North Georgia mountains.
I know what you're talking about.
Well,
why not squatches?
Well, we find new species every day, and I think that's sort of that should be the one thing that triggers people to go, okay, well, sure, we find new species in the ocean. We find different crossbreeds and things like that every single day. So it's a matter of believing that and going, okay, well, why is this not a logical thing? Why is Bigfoot not a logical thing to believe in if you believe in a different breed of leopard popping up?
Yeah, or like a really rare type of bear that's out there that you know exists. It's not. But people have seen them.
Right.
People haven't been believing in this.
You've never seen one. Like you've never seen how many times have you come in contact with a bear in the woods personally?
I haven't seen half of the animals in the animal kingdom unless it's been in a zoo.
That's not what we're arguing. We're arguing that someone out there has, not that you have.
A lot of people have.
Like a
lot of people.
I've never seen a Great Dane.
And they talk about it all the time.
I've never seen a Great Dane.
Wait, Johnny, you've never seen a Great Dane before?
Okay, I can't name an instance in which I've seen a Great Dane.
Well, that's a perfect example. So,
but I know they're real. But I know they're real. Because you just validated.
Why do you know?
Because you just validated by saying you haven't seen a Great Dane. Well, obviously, if you have, and that's one person I know that has.
Right. Well, now you know me. I've seen a Bigfoot before.
Okay, you got me there. Let's move on.
So, okay.
No, I'm not convinced yet.
Well, you know what? So let's, instead of us trying to argue this, there's a lot of facts that are at play here. They're reports, they're facts, they're stories, dating back to a lot further than I think what is, I know Taylor maybe, but Johnny, dating back a lot further than what you'd think. So let's jump into this. So I'm going to say, right ahead, right at the top here, that there are going to be some words that I'm going to mispronounce, some names, some words. It's going to happen. I'll also add that doing research for this episode was very difficult because when you Google Bigfoot, the monster truck Bigfoot kept popping up, so it was skewing my research.
Rightfully
I didn't
so.
know that was a thing.
So I did a lot of research on Bob Chandler in the Bigfoot monster truck for a while.
Legendary driver.
Yeah, and I think that changed a lot too. It kind of gave, I think, Bigfoot a weird rap. It became this sort of monster truck that people for a while didn't know that Bigfoot was some ape-like creature who people were talking about back when the Bigfoot monster truck was a thing. They thought it was just some backwoods redneck monster truck rally driver who really, he started the sport essentially. Bigfoot
when was this?
I don't know, I have a year. I can find a year. I didn't.
Wow.
Because
this is pretty crazy.
Because in my mind, if this Bigfoot monster truck guy was 30, 40 years ago, well, that's only 30, 40 years ago. Like I'm assuming Bigfoot dates way back before then. So I don't think he skewed shit.
Right. Well, I'll tell you.
Maybe bringing it into the mainstream American folklore.
Then I can get that.
Maybe there's a large population of people who only knew Bigfoot as this amazing driver.
I'll tell you what, I've never heard
that battled Gravedigger constantly.
I know Gravedigger. I've never heard of Bigfoot as a monster truck. I'm no monster truck.
Yeah, Bigfoot, it was like blue, and it was blue. And it was a more truck-looking. It was a truck.
1979 was Bigfoot's first paid event at a Denver car show.
40 years ago.
Yeah, so it was a while ago. And when we start diving into these stories, you'll align and you'll see when Bigfoot took over mainstream pop culture in the U.S.
was
around that time. It wasn't too far. It was within a decade. So within that decade,
you're saying that played a role.
I do. I think it definitely played a role.
At least he had something to do with bringing the language of Bigfoot into the mainstream. Just getting that word out there.
I could agree with that. I can get on the board with that.
I think he did, but I also think it was a disservice in a way because it was sort of this Bigfoot was one thing, and then all of a sudden it was Bigfoot the monster truck. And even just Googling now, I mean, when you just Google Bigfoot, I think the third thing that comes up is the monster truck. It's like, really, do people?
Kind of says a lot about the sport.
Do you think the guy?
Wow.
Well, yeah. Do you think
Bob Chandler pioneered monster trucking? Okay,
Bob Chandler, people. Let's give a round of applause for Bob Chandler.
Do you think that he actually piggybacked that or coined that phrase to boost stardom, or was it just a coincidence, though?
I mean, I think the idea of Bigfoot being a monster truck makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a big truck. It's got big wheels, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Big truck.
Yeah. A lot of your questions will be answered.
When they say about big trucks, big tires.
Jesus, Dan. I almost called you Danny.
Big
Don't
tires,
call me Danny.
big wheels, big truck, big exhaust, big wins, baby.
big lug nuts.
All right, so let's jump into this and answer some of Johnny's burning questions, and we're gonna go way back, and we're gonna start from the beginning, and we're gonna learn a little bit about Bigfoot, and then we'll get into the hypotheticals. But I'll say again, the way the podcast works is we're gonna welcome you all, and then we're gonna jump into a little history, a little facts that we have on the subject, and then at the end of the podcast, we're going to talk about some hypothetical questions that will be burning your souls over the course of you listening to this podcast.
Oh, my soul's burning already.
Oh,
let's go.
Just wait. All right, here we go. So, Bigfoot, whether a skeptic or believer, is a name most people are familiar with. Bigfoot has played a huge part in pop culture ever since the famous Patterson-Gimlin footage took the world by storm in 1967. There's that fun fact there. The footage featured a large, hairy, human-like creature walking alongside Bluff Creek in North California. So that 1967 was when the Gimlin footage...
Is this the shot where it goes across the stream?
This is the famous shot.
It's on your desktop thing.
It's on my desktop and my laptop.
I've seen that like 10 times.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks good.
You're familiar with it. Yeah.
Well,
it's out there. It looks good.
I think that's like the mainstream clip.
Yeah, it is. It started it.
Yeah.
It started it all.
That's the clip.
What year was this again?
1967.
Okay.
So tallying that back to Bob Chandler, 1979 was when he...
I mean, 4 years. What was it? 1979? Oh,
1979.
That's like what? 12 years later?
Yeah, a decade. This isn't going to come back. There's no trick here. Bob Chandler's not going to make a reappearance in this episode.
He's okay.
This is it. That's
so that was the fact. That was
Bob Chandler.
Wow, how coincidental is that?
We're coming full circle for you, Bob.
We're coming for you, Bobby.
We're gonna come back and get you.
Shake and bake.
That full circle has ended.
All right. Bye.
So a full decade from the Patterson footage
and 2 years
until Bob comes out with his monster truck. So the word's got to be out there. It's got to be getting buzz. People got to be talking about it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
In the early 70s.
10 years later. I mean, but that video probably blew up instantly. I don't think 12 years. Like, when's the last time someone brought up a viral video 12 years later? Like, oh, do you remember Fred? No.
You say instantly. I mean, I guess at that time, like, what would have happened? That would have had to been published on like a TV show or something,
and then
right?
people talked about it.
How was this actually brought to the world? I wonder.
That's a good question. Well, it was definitely a video, and back then that video quality was pretty decent. I will give you that. It's now Technicolor, way back.
Very, very decent. This is also
movie tone.
On his deathbed, right? Recently, he came out and said that this is actually fake footage and that he
whoa,
with Patterson-Gimlin?
Wait, what happened?
Yeah.
So that's the catch.
Am I mistaken on that?
Well,
what?
So here's the thing. So just over 50 years later, the footage, the famous Patterson-Gimlin footage, has still yet to be debunked or authenticated.
Still?
Wait, I'm confused. Didn't Taylor just say that it was faked?
So there,
I thought I had heard that.
There had been stories.
That's a
so some of the hearsay on the deathbed front is that he was so tired of the burden of whether this was real or not real. It was easier to go out and say it's not to close the case, which brings up, which we need to keep that in mind when we're talking about the hypotheticals, because that is going to be a very important fact that we'll discuss.
Okay.
Huh.
later.
Very weird. I mean, on my deathbed, I don't think I'd be too worried about any burden like that.
I don't think so.
Seems like the burden would be, man, it's fake. It's been on me for this so long. I need to get it off my chest. Rather than, I want to make all these people think something that's not true after I'm dead.
Right.
I don't know.
There's a lot of fascinating facts to the Patterson-Gimlin footage and sort of the myth. But the craziest thing is that the footage just exists. Just like Bigfoot believers, the footage just exists out in the ether.
It exists.
Yes, it exists.
And that's the craziest thing is that people have yes, they've tried to debunk it with the deathbed. There's another guy who says he was Bigfoot, that he played Bigfoot.
Right.
He was in the suit.
Yeah.
But then those claims are also debunked, but it's never been authenticated. So it's so crazy that over 50 years later, this footage just exists in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And has changed everything.
It's definitely like warped and
That's
changed.
one of those weird things. I guess you could debunk all these things that come up about it. Sure, debunk these things, debunk that thing. But I mean, how do you authenticate the video? Like, is it possible to authenticate
not really
a video of something that no one even agrees exists?
Right.
That's with no plausible proof of what an actual Bigfoot would be. There's no way to prove that it's real or not real. That's because it's so difficult. Like if it was like a dog, you could tell, oh, it's a dog. I want a dog. That's what it looks like. But it's a Bigfoot. You can't tell, oh, that Bigfoot doesn't walk that way. Well, how do you know?
Well, you can't deem it a species or a breed by just seeing it if it's something that's still unknown, which is fascinating.
And things about the video that may have been proven by now. Like, has it been proven that it is indeed, it was shot on film? There's been no editing to it at all. No weird computer generated stuff. I know this was in the 70s, but
yeah,
right.
Has that kind of stuff been proven? Like, this has not been altered in any way.
It's definitely a good idea.
As far as I know, it was shot on film. They do have the actual film it was shot on. There was no alteration, and that much has been studied.
He walks from left to right, right?
Yes.
He goes like off frame or like it moves across.
Yes.
I don't know. As far as I know, if that's the first shot, what's his name again?
Patterson-Gimlin is the footage.
So if I was Pat and I saw Bigfoot, I feel like I'd either be like, really, because it's the first like actual mainstream footage. From what I remember, the shot didn't seem like he was freaking out and like shuddering or like shaky hands. It was like, oh, here's a normal freaking creature in the woods. Let me shoot it, Yeah. He wasn't freaking. If it was me, even with the known knowledge I have, or I guess known hypotheticals you guys have given me, a Bigfoot, I would still be freaking out. He was like so like non-cavalier.
Right.
That's a good point. From what I understand, there's more to the story. Like, there's a period of time where he is obviously getting the camera set up and he's watching this thing for a while. But that's a good point. Like, that film had to have at least existed for some time. Why not show absolutely every piece of footage from that period of time where you're at that bank,
Right.
Why only show the money clip? Why don't you show every single clip?
Why not the money clip?
Because it's sold. And that changed everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think maybe if you showed the whole thing, it would be like there would be a conspiracy. It's like he's real. It would be a conversation.
Right. Well, this all, the Patterson-Gimlin footage is such a great jumping off point because this is going to come back into play with our hypotheticals at the end.
Okay.
But the most fascinating thing about this is that this wasn't one of the only and earliest pieces of Bigfoot footage or documented Bigfoot encounter, which is so. It's what's interesting to me is that there are so many encounters that have been documented that all line up, and so we're going to jump through a few, and we're going to see a pattern.
Bring them on.
Yeah, we're going to see a pattern of how the description of Bigfoot is similar across all of these boards, and it stayed consistent across the time. So the earliest known account of a Bigfoot encounter was actually 986 AD by none other.
What?
Right? By none other than Norse explorer Leif Erikson.
What?
Right?
Okay.
Crazy. So Leif told a story of seeing huge hairy men who towered over him and his men. These huge hairy men lived in the woods and were known for their horrific odor and ear-piercing shriek, similar to modern-day descriptions of Bigfoot encounters.
Same description, essentially.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the whoops, the shrieks, all that.
Very cool. Very cool.
Leaf and his men called the creatures Skelring, which roughly translated to barbarian. But what makes that so fascinating is that Leaf and his men, being Norsemen, were quite hairy and quite barbaric themselves. So did they truly discover something hairier and more barbaric than themselves, or is this just some sort of tall tale? That's the crazy part.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was so long ago.
Right. I mean, Leif Erikson's, he's someone who he traveled around documenting things that he found everywhere. So, I mean, are there other tales, in his travels that incorporate, like, are there a Cyclops, stories of Cyclops, stories of sirens, other, like, mythological things?
Don Quixote had
or is it
Cyclops.
typically all real experiences that he talks about?
Imagine if there's some book that Leif Erikson hid where it's just like Journeys of the Unknown,
Like
written by
everything.
Leif Erikson.
Yeah.
Today I've fucked a Cyclops and killed a unicorn.
This Pegasus I rode on a
Two
bareback.
Cyclops eye. Two Cyclops eye.
Susus like eye? Cycli?
Cyclopsy.
Cyclops.
Cyclopia?
Cyclipsy.
So the crazy thing too is Leif Erikson was not the only leader to have documented a Bigfoot sighting. Do you know who else documented one?
Christopher Columbus.
Huh? Taylor?
What other leaders are we talking about? I know there have been
Talking about like
multiple
a
presidents,
political leader?
Native American
Talking about,
chiefs
like-
and stuff like that.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head, Taylor. The 26th president of the United States, Mr. Theodore Roosevelt.
What?
In 1889, Teddy wrote and published a book called The Wilderness Hunter, which covered big game in the United States. If you don't know much about Teddy Roosevelt, this might seem a bit strange, out of character for him, but Teddy was an avid hunter and outdoorsman.
I know that.
So it only made sense that he'd write an entire book about big game before his presidency. The most bizarre part of the entire book was a story Teddy was impressed, quote unquote, impressed by, and decided to include about a frontiersman named Bowman, or Bowman, however you say
Bowman.
it, who he describes having a violent encounter with a quote unquote goblin in the woods that sounded an awful lot like Bigfoot.
Goblin.
Here's an excerpt from the story for you to decide for yourself.
Okay.
The footprints of the unknown beast creature printed deep in the soft soil tell the whole story. The unfortunate man, having finished his packing, had sat down on the spruce log with his face to the fire and his back to the dense woods to wait for his companions. While thus waiting, his monstrous assailant, which must have been lurking in the woods, waiting for a chance to catch one of the adventurers unprepared, came silently behind him, walking with a long, noiseless step, seemingly still on two legs. Evidently unheard, it reached the man, broke his neck by wrenching his head back with his forepaws while burying his teeth into his throat. Oddly enough, it had not eaten the body, but apparently it had romped around in uncouth, ferocious glee, occasionally rolling over and over, before it fled back into the silent depths of the woods.
Like, what the fuck is that?
That sounds murderous.
That was in the 26th.
Very murderous.
The 26th president of the United States found that story interesting enough to put in his hunting book. That is
crazy.
no bear.
Yeah, that's messed up. So, and I know that.
It sounds like a carnivorous creature. a carnivorous woodland creature.
Thank you for that narration, Taylor. That was fantastic. I know that
That was
Teddy.
lovely.
That was lovely. I know Teddy was or Theodore. Sorry, was it?
Hey, we can call him Teddy, Ted, Theodore.
All right. I know
T-Dog.
Rosie. I know Rosie was a
Teddy
hunter,
Rowe.
and I remember some T-Dog, T-Money. I remember
Teddy Rowe.
some story of him catching, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that sound, but that might.
Right, you got to imagine these stories probably happen all the time too. I mean,
What do you mean?
for them, it wasn't crazy enough for him to go talking about it, telling everybody about it. So it must be common enough to believe it, but uncommon enough to write it down.
I guess. I think I would freak out about that.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, but Teddy was a little crazy.
Yeah, he was.
Right.
He convinced Teddy Roosevelt.
I mean, he's got some alien stories. He's got all kinds.
He
of crazy
convinced
stories.
the architect that made the Mount Rushmore,
Mm-hmm.
all the presidents. He convinced that architect, who was his friend, to put him in there. He wasn't supposed to be in there. He literally convinced the architect. It's a little fact for you guys.
That's crazy. And the thing is, too, I mean, I have my laptop in front of me, and Johnny has a piece of paper with no research or information, so he pulled that right out of his butt.
I did.
That's a great fact.
Oh.
But that's the thing. I think
Very
Teddy was a loon. I mean, Taylor, do you know anything about Teddy?
I don't know an incredible amount about him. No.
He was crazy, and I think that's the biggest thing that we can chalk it up to.
Robin Williams played him in Night in the Museum, right?
Yeah, Robin Williams.
Well, I mean, he writes like he knows what he's talking about. I mean, some of these words are pretty beefy.
Fell in love with Sacagawea in Night in the Museum.
Yeah, so Johnny's held up on Robin Williams playing Teddy Roosevelt at Night at the Museum.
I know that much about Teddy Roosevelt. That's about it.
What a great portrayal.
Yeah.
It was just a great portrayal of Teddy Roosevelt.
I agree.
By the late great.
I've got to be honest, I did not see the movie.
It's okay.
What?
You didn't miss a whole lot.
I mean, yeah. I think for Robin Williams' performance, I think it's worth checking out.
That's true. I agree. Ben Stiller did a good job too.
Okay.
Yeah, Ben Stiller's fine.
I thought that was fine.
He almost got outperformed by that monkey, though.
Oh my gosh. Was it a capuchin monkey?
Capuchin monkey.
With the fire extinguisher in the face? Capuchin.
Like monkeys, look, it's all bringing us back.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that's
how we got
that's
there.
The thing
journey.
Is that capuchin monkey to me, I could see myself in Teddy's shoes being like, "That's a goblin." But here's my problem: a 6 to 7, maybe 8 foot tall ape-like creature, a Bigfoot. I don't see as a goblin. Every interpretation I've heard of a goblin has been like a Harry Potter little like elf-like thing, not a huge beast. How is that a goblin?
So that's a good fact there. I think to cover that, Taylor, like that's a goblin. Wouldn't that be small?
That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know if a goblin is technically small. I think the goblin that I took from this story is the fact that he was romping around in uncouth, ferocious glee,
like
in the body and blood of of what it just destroyed.
So
I think that is what makes it a goblin, in my opinion.
Not the size, the actual vigor of what he's doing.
The attitude, the seemingly evil.
Okay. Well, that's like a gargoyle, then.
Which is odd. I mean, you typically don't hear about Sasquatches like exuding this like evil vibe,
I don't.
You overwhelmingly you hear about territorial, kind of
Harry and the Hendersons
kind of stuff, but you never. Yeah, exactly, he was the
That's
nicest.
how I viewed Sasquatches until about a couple months ago when I was talking to you, Tay, and you told me about some stories of violent Sasquatches, and my whole entire view changed.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, it's a different time. Like, this guy, I mean, this Bowman guy, Bowman, he was clearly hunting. And there are stories that Bigfoot are one with they're connected. The Native Americans have stories saying that they're basically the peacekeepers in the wilderness. And I think that this hunter, this frontiersman, was probably, like, moping around, fucking things up. And then that made him mad, and he could sense that, and that's why he destroyed this guy.
It's like an exists.
Very possible.
The movie it exists.
Yeah.
And like they were fine, Bigfoot family, and then they got mad because they killed.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry guys, that's my bad.
yeah. An amazing movie, by the way.
I liked it. It scared me like
amazing
5
scares.
times. I might have screamed and peed myself a little bit.
Taylor's in it for the jump scares.
I was not ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking quality Sasquatch movies, so far, that's number one for me.
I think hands down. I think under Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah,
I rated that.
Under Harry, that's no compete.
Yeah,
I agree.
So sightings and encounters have been documented centuries after both the Leif Erikson and Teddy Roosevelt encounters, and still continue to this day. However, most non-believers seem to peg the Patterson-Gimlin footage for the constant resurfacing and commercialization of Bigfoot today. This is where things get even more interesting. The term Bigfoot was created in 1958, 9 years before the Patterson-Gimlin footage surfaced. The term was used for the first time by Humboldt Times journalist Andrew Genzali, who wrote a story about huge ape-like footprints being discovered in Del Norte County, California.
So you're saying
plot twist.
You're saying that it wasn't called Bigfoot until this, and then after that, the footage came out.
Yeah, there's some crazy Native American ties and stories why they got the name Bigfoot. But yeah, up until 1958, the term Bigfoot was used for the first time here, which is 9 years before the Patterson-Gimlin footage.
Is that good or bad for your guys' claim, though? I would say it's bad.
I don't know. I think it's a hard. You can't avoid, this idea, this myth, like taking a life on its own, and people building it up into something that's not. But if there is an event or a being that you have to give it a name, you have to think of something. You have to choose common phrases.
Yeah.
This word Bigfoot was being thrown around. It doesn't seem like a bad thing to call something like Sasquatch. You got to name it something.
Yeah,
you know?
especially because I think from my experience, the most plausible evidence people have seen is from big feet in the tracks, big actual footprints.
It's the distinct feature, because if you don't see it and you only see like, okay, this is a giant foot, at that time, that was the only thing left behind, essentially, by the Bigfoot, him or herself. But it's interesting that the coin was termed, or the term was coined.
I like that.
Back in 1958, and then 9 years later, we got the first real footage. It took 9 years. So,
and then 12 years later, we had the monster truck.
Yeah, then we're bringing it back to Bob Chandler.
Bobby
Chandler.
Yo, Bobby C.
Bobby C.
So, I mean, there's no doubt that people were talking about the thing that is Bigfoot, you know, and before, you know, the
name
phrase was coined, they just were forced to call it something else. Big ape-like man, wild man, hairy beast,
ape,
you know, things like that. The Yeti, you know, I'm sure had been talked about before that.
I'm sure.
So they had to call it something, you know, and I guess once there was a general term that people could recognize, it just makes sense to call it that, even if it seems kind of childish.
It's simplistic, like you said, Taylor. It's easy to call. It's like every animal has a very specific scientific name, and it said, you know,
hammerhead shark looks like a hammerhead.
It's a hammerhead shark. That's a perfect example, Johnny. You hit the nail on the head.
I hit the hammer on the shark.
The shark's head.
Hammerhead.
Hammerhead shark.
Say it with me. Hammerhead
shark.
Hammerhead shark.
Hammer.
Its head looks like a hammer.
I think people who create, even like in sports, anybody who creates something, whether it's a new sport in a competition or an animal, unless you're some ass, you're going to create the name of something that reminds you of that thing so it's easy to recognize. That makes sense.
Well, unless you're an American citizen and you've made American football.
Yeah, because we're soccer.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be about Native Americans.
Handball.
Football. But let's say you discover your own island and you call it Johnnyville. Johnnyville, the island, has always existed. It's just you now call it Johnnyville.
I guess, but
now we all know it as Johnnyville.
Okay.
Skeptics have had trouble believing in Bigfoot due to the copious amount of theories to what this creature truly is and why we haven't been able to capture one yet. The theories include that Bigfoot is an alien, it has magical powers, and it's protected by an Area 51 type facility to make sure that they are never found.
Is it magic powers?
For fear that it would send human beings into a frenzy, causing them to question their own existence. However, the mass amount of Bigfoot hoaxes around the world only solidified the skeptics' argument for doubting this creature's true existence.
So wait, you're telling me that one of the plausibilities of it not being mainstream is magical powers?
Correct.
What?
Yeah, no, the theories.
Okay.
The theories of to why we haven't captured it yet
is because it has magic powers.
Yes. That's a theory. I'm not saying it's not
okay.
Magical powers is also an undefined term in this podcast right now. So
you have a point.
Magical powers could mean a lot of different things.
Well, cloaking device I could use as magical. You know, in my opinion, I have a hard time believing that if we have not found one, it would have to have some kind of
like camouflage
ability. You know,
listen to this, Taylor.
What do you mean ability? Like it has like Survivor Man abilities, like the ability to
no, like
be
predator
obviously
abilities.
take care of itself, but like hide or something or what?
No, well, I'm not talking about I'm talking about like Predator from like Predator.
You know that you guys heard that movie Predator? Yeah, it's got this big fucking thing.
Pretty much that.
Pretty sure its name is Predator.
Anyways,
it's got big feet.
Predator from Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger from Austria. So, anyways, that Predator had like abilities like cloaking, all that stuff. Not like laser cannons. I think in order for a Bigfoot to actually be a thing or not found, it would have to have.
It needs laser cannons.
Yeah,
it just explodes. It destroys everything in its path.
I can't see one having those things though.
Invisibility?
Yeah.
Well, why not?
An animal having invisibility.
Why not? Yeah.
Because then, like, why would that video? Why didn't they go invisible?
Do you believe in chameleons?
They'll go invisible.
They camouflage.
Octopi go slightly, you know. But that Bigfoot in that video, every Bigfoot I've ever heard or seen, not only are they always that brownish color. I'm not talking about different types of hair, that always brownish dark color.
Oh, we're going to get into different types of hair
I'm
here in
sure
a second.
we are, but they don't camouflage.
A lot of different colors out there.
I've never ever heard of a Bigfoot camouflaging or having any magical powers. That's a new thing.
I'm just giving you the theories.
Okay, that's fine.
Taylor knows.
I disagree.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of claims out there that they appear, disappear, that their presence is they're around when other weird things are happening. I like the idea that they could be multidimensional. I can't discount that. But I, in my mind, the most logical thing is that they are just another animal that are probably more intelligent than like your average ape or your chimpanzee, but they're just another animal out there, and there's not very many of them, and they're just out there on these crazy open in these woods, and they're just good at being quiet and good at hiding.
Well, what a perfect segue, Taylor. Because in January 2016, when Newsweek published their Bigfoot Special Edition issue that uncovered a unique story that would soon silence some of the skeptics, Johnny, by giving Bigfoot a name.
Ouch.
Bigfoot had a name.
A name?
And that name...
A name?
Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Spit it at me.
That name was Zana. The story of Zana is told...
Zana.
Yeah. The story of Zana is told in Professor Brian Sykes' book, Bigfoot, Yeti, and the Last Neanderthal.
Moana. You're welcome.
Are you guys ready to have your minds blown?
Yes.
Blow my freaking mind,
All right.
Nicholas.
This is where the mispronunciation happens, because this is some weird... These are some weird regions that I'm about to have to...
So you're about to mispronounce some things.
Yes.
All right. Disclaimer.
Here we go. In the early 1850s, a traveling merchant visiting the Ochampshire region...
It's got to be wrong.
It's definitely wrong. The Ochampshire region of the Abkhazia, somewhere between Russia and Georgia, came across a young creature who appeared to be female. As soon as she caught sight of this merchant, she vanished in a puff of smoke. No, I'm just kidding. The merchant returned days later with a hunting party and their dogs. When they saw the creature again, the dogs were let loose and the beast was captured. She was then held in a ditch surrounded by wooden stakes until she was sold off to an Abkhaz nobleman named Edgy Janaba, who then took her to his farming estate where she lived out the rest of her life until she died around 1890.
So she was a hypothetical.
Any details of this creature? Like,
absolutely, Taylor.
What was it like? Like, was
Thank
it?
you for asking.
Thank you for asking, Taylor. Eyewitness descriptions of Zana say that she was part human, part ape, had dark skin and long reddish brown hair down her back. She was large, about 6 foot 6 inches tall, and extremely muscular, with an exaggerated hairless buttocks and large breasts.
Ooh. Well, that doesn't. None of that could be like. That's an Amazonian. What part of that did not sound like a big woman with dark hair?
That's a very good point, Johnny. A very good point. That these Sasquatches are probably more human-like than a lot of us want to believe.
Yes, absolutely.
What if they're more human-like than ape-like?
So then why are people like, oh my gosh, this person's obviously not a human? If I saw that person, I'd be like, all right, that's a person taking steroids with a girl in dodgeball. Damn it, Bernice. You remember that scene?
Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
I'm getting there, though.
Okay.
Her face was wide with high cheekbones and a broad nose. Brilliant white teeth flashed from her wide mouth, with teeth that could crush nuts and even bones.
Hot.
Now this next bit, actually, yeah, look at that. You need the nuts. You got a nuts joke.
Moving on.
Moving on. Now this next bit gets pretty sad, but would you expect nothing less from human behavior? I wouldn't.
All right.
Zana very quickly became a source of cruel amusement. It started out just being the children at first. They would prod her with sticks and throw rocks at her. But she became more and more submissive as this cruelty went on. Janaba even removed her from the stone prison he had her in and allowed her to sleep in his house. She hated it. She preferred being outdoors in the open air. Once the local villagers got used to her, she was allowed to roam freely. She never once tried to escape. She began doing menial tasks for Janaba and never even attempted to speak. She only let out sounds that were usually a series of grunts, whistles, and cries.
Okay.
So this was just a simple story of half human, half animal captured and tamed by a seemingly more advanced society.
Okay.
So this all might seem like some elaborate story until it was discovered that Zana had at least 4 children with local men.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
No.
How she became
What?
pregnant is unclear, but there are stories of drunken orgies and curious men who paid to have sex with her.
Here's my question. How does a man, any man, gain the balls to have sex with something that is someone, it's not something, that is 6 foot tall, Amazonian, and could crush nuts?
Well, no, there's no facts in here saying she's Amazonian, Johnny.
But that's what I'm visualizing. It's like a
She's got a hairless buttocks and she's got large breasts.
well, wait.
Right.
Okay,
Johnny, people fuck horses. They have sex with goats and sheep. Like those are real things that happen out in the world,
I
man.
get that.
And now you're telling me one of those people who would have sex with a goat could have sex with something that looks more
I think it's a little different. I think
that's pretty
No.
believable.
I'm not putting myself in the
believable.
shoes of somebody who's in a bestiality. Now, let me make that
Is
clear.
it bestiality though?
Right,
But
yeah,
no, I'm not saying I'm just saying hear me for what I'm saying. I'm not putting myself in their shoes. However, I personally, this sounds so bad. I'm about to say it, but that's okay. Good Lord. Okay, so
Episode 1, Johnny announces he wants to fuck a gorilla.
oh my god,
Guys, there was this one time I went to the zoo. I was 15.
I was one of the kids,
Had
guys.
access, what can I say?
I was one of the kids. I'm one of the offspring of this ape. Okay, so the thing is, a man, whatever, a person trying to have sex with a horse, whatever the animal is, a donkey, a sheep. I think there's less. I know they're drunk. There's less risk factor than something that one of the definitions is crushes nuts. Good, like literally this thing sleeps outside. It's human, half human, half that description I'd be scared of.
Yeah, but that was before it became.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have the balls to, but let's just imagine that person also, that thing also has a sex drive in some way.
Oh.
Well,
So there's got to be at least some percentage of the time that thing's okay with it.
well, she was wandering the town like with the villagers. Like she was so submissive to the point where
One of the groupies?
she was just one of the villagers at this
Our
point.
friend group, one of the gang.
That
But
that part is kind of crazy to me. Like if you were captured, even if you got like the whole Stockholm syndrome, like that's crazy that you'd be captured for so long. I mean, you're a wild person anyways. You live in the woods, which is literally 3 steps away, from wherever she was.
Right.
Why would she not just leave at any time?
Wasn't this
know?
also in the Jungle Book when the kid in the new one that came out, he could go back to the village, and he didn't because
He
he's
didn't.
like, yeah.
Well, I think it's the idea of that middle ground of the advanced society. I think when she was doing the menial tasks, it was almost a slave mentality where she felt like she was stuck there, but she was fed. She didn't have to hunt. She was being treated okay. Like she wasn't being prodded anymore by the children.
Which is another thing. Eventually, she was stopped getting bullied.
Right. People accepted her
As the reindeer.
as a part of. She wasn't a beast
Rudolph.
anymore. She was just tamed by a more advanced civilization.
Yeah.
One of us. One of us.
Yeah, they all just stood around her chanting that.
Oh, don't sacrifice me.
Come on.
But I think that's like.
That's pretty crazy, and that's also like, okay, so apparently they can have offspring with humans, which is also a big part of the Sasquatch story.
That's me.
Is that wild men, Sasquatches take women, often do their thing in the woods. So maybe that's one way that they have actually been able to keep going is they take human women or
Kind of sounds like The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, well, it's similar.
Yeah, I mean,
it's similar to that story, but to pay to have, I think it probably became in this village. I couldn't find a lot of information on this farming village, but I don't imagine that they were a bunch of macho dudes who were trying to prove something. But the fact that they were curious enough to pay to have sex with her, it could have been this whole rite of passage of like,
oh,
hey, guess what I did? Like it's just you don't. There's not enough information to pull from it, but clearly there was an interest. I mean, the drunken orgies aspect.
Tell me more.
That's insane.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's like I don't know, like how human could it look? Like what if it looked hella human and it was a pretty Sasquatch?
Yeah, is there a new scale 1 out of 10 for Sasquatch? Sasquatch eye? Squashes?
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a Texas veterinarian who released a study that suggests that cryptids had sex with modern human females that resulted in hairy hominid hybrids. So the scientific community actually like shut that down, but still, the theory is out there, and this specific description written by Brian Sykes is so fascinating because it's. I mean, there are multiple eyewitness accounts, multiple. But the part where it gets really interesting is that the children are what change the story and make it worth documenting.
The offspring.
Yeah, without the children, Zana could have been lost in time. Just another myth. But in
Yeah, it's almost like the children like more validify, like more solidifies that maybe this actually happened. Maybe it's an actual true story. Is there four more people out there to like
it expands it.
Maybe they have a story.
Exactly. Well, so in 1971, Igor Burtsev located the grave of Quit, which is the younger of Zana's two sons. So fast forward to 2012 in London when Professor Sykes, the writer of this book, managed to recover and sequence mitochondrial DNA from Quit's tooth. The sequence concluded that Zana was not in fact Neanderthal at all. She was a member of the genus Homo. But was she fully human? Professor Brian Sykes hopes to find an answer. He doesn't have one now, but if the traveling merchant found one of these creatures, could there be more living peacefully somewhere near Abkhazia? Only time will tell.
So his study just proved that there was no Neanderthal in there, but could be any other pre-human, right?
Exactly. No, it could be. He says, and this was
a whole number of pre-humans.
Right. So this is back in 2012, and he still was interviewed back in 2016 when the Newsweek. So it's been a while, and if there was some sort of conclusion, we don't have one yet. I did the research. There's nothing there. He doesn't have anything worthy of reporting about. But I mean, if the merchant found one, could there be more in this untouched area between Georgia and Russia?
It's not only would there be more, could there be more? It's like there have to be more. There have to be.
Exactly.
That's not like the only documented case of other non-humans.
Mistaken identity.
There have been cases. Was it Homo floresiensis?
I don't know what
where it was it was a group of dwarf like pygmies that were all located on one certain island. It was up to like 10,000 years ago that they had survived.
Whoa.
So all throughout time, like even not that far back in history, there are other, hominids that exist right beside Homo sapiens. It's not out of the question that one or two or multiple different species, not only just one, could have survived this whole time.
Right. And so I think that's the perfect bridge over. So story time is done, and now we're into the hypothetical part of the podcast. All the information was crazy, and I had to narrow it down. There's so many. There's Sasquatch and Yeti and the skunk ape and all that, but we wanted to focus just on Bigfoot. Key things that actually were worth talking about that made waves in sort of the Bigfoot believer community. But the first hypothetical I want to talk about is, what if Bigfoot was a species existing today? What if they were living in Abkhazia or wherever it was? Like, what if they were existing? What would that look like? Would it just be another animal living in the...
Right. I think it would be a whole other civil rights issue just like waiting to happen.
Yeah, I don't...
But that's so true, though.
Yeah.
I think with what knowledge you guys have given me, there's a lot of things that could go. Whether if this ape-like creature is just an ape-like creature, that's one set of things. If this ape-like creature is being hidden by Area 51, that's another set of things. And then if it has special powers or like magic, this is a complicated situation. There's like 1,000 different types of Bigfoots and all these different things.
Yeah, but the hypothetical is, what if it was existing, regardless of magic or fucking being hidden by, like, it doesn't, none of that stuff, that's all white noise now.
Well, I think one of the crazy things about it is that it seems so human. So what if it does exist, and what if it's so very human, but it's also this animal? And what if it has like this thing that we look for, like this consciousness or whatever it is that we have that all these other animals don't have, but like, what if it has that?
Right. Well, if it's
whatever that is.
If it stood like us, it's the whole idea of like, would a human eat another human?
Yeah.
It's the idea of like gorillas very clearly like they look like apes. But what if there was an ape that was so closely resembled a human being? Would there be another civil rights movement for these things? Like, would we view them differently because they stand like us, they walk like this, or they walk like us? And there are some theories.
Yeah, where is the line?
Yeah, there are theories that they can talk too. I mean, I'm sure they have a language, but there are theories that they talk with a British accent. I've heard that theory.
Yeah, I've heard that theory.
I've heard they speak. Some of them speak
I've
Russian.
heard that they're, one of the theories is they're telepathic.
Yeah. That's the magical power
Sort of
aspect
dolphins,
of it.
right? Or no, they're
not dolphins.
Echolocation. I'm sorry.
Telepathic.
Wait, is it echolocation? That's bats. What sonar? That's what
Sonar, yeah.
Sonar.
Echo.
That's echolocation.
Oh, you're right.
Same.
All right. Well, so are submarines. Fascinating.
Well, there's no reason. Yeah, why not that? Why not that? Why not?
Well, that can't be the deciding factor.
ESP or whatever.
That can't be the deciding factor. What makes
there's
them
so
humans.
we only operate with our senses. There's so many animals out here that have more senses than we do.
I think
and stronger senses that we have. They could have some senses that we don't have.
If there was a species out there that had even the slightest intelligence towards human capability, but had physical attributes that were stronger, I think the human populace would be almost like threatened.
Well, that's the next. That bridges to the next. The hypothetical is like, what if? Thank you. What if Bigfoot is the missing link? I think that would ruin people.
Yeah.
And that's why I think if Bigfoot, and I'm a true believer that I do think that Bigfoot is the missing link. The way that I look at it, my perspective is I honest to God, I think that Bigfoot is a missing link. And that's why I think we can't find it. I think there are protective laws from our government or another form of government that are protecting it from being found. Because I think the world would be sent into a tizzy if we knew Bigfoot was that gap, that missing link that exists.
You're saying if we knew it, the world would blow up.
I think that it would cause a lot of problems.
Well, then I don't want to get into future episodes, but I don't know about yet, by the way, viewers, but tune in next week. But when it comes to other things, is that so every mythological creature is being hidden hypothetically? Because
I wouldn't go that far. I'm just saying specifically, I mean, I don't believe in fucking unicorns, but I do believe.
Well, we have national forests, and national forests are protected.
Right.
Each one of the places that these things would live is a national forest.
You can go to a national forest.
Yeah, you can go to a national forest.
You can go to a national forest, but you can't go do whatever you want there at any time, undocumented.
Why do you think they're closed after hours? There are some national parks that are actually closed at sunset.
Kids go in there. I've gone.
You can't climb down into the Grand Canyon. Pretty sure that's illegal.
Could you imagine that's where they all were?
I mean, it'd be a good.
Right?
There's water.
Just in caves, like a cave system?
Yeah.
There's no reason. I mean, a lot of people are on board with the cave system idea, that they all live underground in cave systems.
Well, if they are a missing link.
If you're looking at, what percentage of the Earth's mantle we live on, there's no reason why they can't have miles and miles and miles
small plane
of tunnels down there that we have no idea about.
Exactly. Well, if they were, clearly in the Zana study, they weren't Neanderthal, but if they are that missing link, maybe the thing that they know that's the safest for them are the cave systems, because we don't have what are in cave systems that we have to study and research.
Oh, nothing.
Right.
So why would we go in there? They know it's
not much down there. It's
I mean,
what?
Johnny's flabbergasted.
I'm having a. I was you were talking. I was talking. I don't think there's much we're studying down there that we'd have to see. But in my opinion, I keep saying that. This is all my opinion. I don't think that a Bigfoot. Okay, let me take a step back. Okay, people, myself included, have used different types of machine technology to see into the ground, magnetic things, all these different things. No matter how deep a Bigfoot dug or was underneath the earth, we can sense the magnetic fields through the earth, hundreds of meters down. I just don't think Bigfoots would not be seen.
Yeah. I get what you're saying there, but all the time, people are digging in their garden. In England or whatever, just digging a new thing in my garden, and boom, they find this underground passage that leads to thousands of catacombs with all these crazy things in them. It happens.
Right.
I don't know if I'd say catacomb size, but a lot of moles and what's it called?
Nah, I mean we're talking we're talking complex size shit, like city size complex.
I've never heard of
Like
that.
that kind of stuff is found.
Never heard of that.
Well, you have now.
Definitely true.
Okay, well, if I believe that's
So
if I take that, you can go ahead.
I'll say here's one of my missing link hypotheticals. So, what if, in some way, whatever Sasquatches are the missing link? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you prescribe to the fact that, or the idea that, way back when, before humans existed, that there were all these different pre-humans, and that extraterrestrials, that's right, I'm going to say it, extraterrestrials,
Okay.
come to Earth, and they create a super race based off of the beings that were here, and let's say whatever they created is us. They create humans by splicing whatever genes they splice into different pre-humans, come up with us, right? What if all along this series of time, since that happened, our gene pool, is getting diluted, more diluted, more diluted. So over time, these aliens have to drop off a package of genes. It's like insert back into the gene pool. And they do that by inserting different beings that would then go raping humans and making half ape babies. But it would, in turn, throw new genes into this human gene pool. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe they're trying to do that, and all it is we see some Sasquatches every now and then. But that is a missing link.
Can you condense that to like 10 seconds for me?
Well, I think the idea is that when the Neanderthals were developing and changing, aliens came to Earth.
Okay.
And they took that gene and made a more advanced species, which then put us here.
Right.
So now...
And then over time,
yeah,
as this gene pool dilutes, they have to come back and add more of the raw gene,
Make it more pure.
And keep in mind, it wasn't just Neanderthals. It was, all kinds of pre-humans.
Yeah.
Neanderthal would just be just one of those, pre-humans. That'd be like a non-pre-human, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Non-human.
That's the thing that tears me apart is that people, when you talk Bigfoot with them, they have this moment where they go, oh, okay, it can't exist. Well, yeah, it can exist because people forget evolution. I mean, everyone looked at the fucking the map or the chart of like from Neanderthal to man. Like, what if somewhere in between that
there was a caveman?
There was something that didn't develop further, and it is.
And not only that, there's that line, but there's also like, let's say that line's going vertically. Look horizontally down the line. You've got another 20 lines doing that same thing.
Yeah.
That are slightly different versions of human.
Yeah.
And some of them may have died off. Some of them may have carried on and evolved the same way we did, and that's Bigfoot.
I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this, guys. I just, at the end of the day, it's just not possible.
Right. So my belief with Sasquatch is that there are so many possible routes that you can go with to believe in. They have magic, they're aliens, ESP, they are pre-humans. There are just so many different routes that all seem logical to me. Like
there's too many.
I'm open to so many different possibilities. I can't even really just hang on one of them.
There's too much logic, and that's the thing, and that's why it is possible. And the missing link is something that's been going on far too long. Is that I think we reach a certain point in society where if we know too much and too much information is released, it's almost information overload for human beings. And I think that if the missing link is indeed Bigfoot and that was released, I think that would change everything, and it would be information overload because it would question the way everyone thinks about things.
It would.
Yeah, but like Taylor's saying about the alien theory is that one of my hypotheticals was that could Bigfoot have been a perfect idea for how humans should be, and were we just too narcissistic to follow that, and that we've caused forced development because we're so narcissistic that like the simplicity of Bigfoot existing, like just existing and being intelligent enough to outlive the cavemen who were getting murdered on the daily by saber-toothed tigers and shit, who could a species that could survive and thrive in survival situations because of just basic intelligence. And then there was a kind of a developmental jump from there because like it was the drive to speak, to create, to
That's us.
Yeah, and I think that's us. And I think, yeah, it's great because we live in this world and I'm appreciative of it, but I think there is some narcissism to that. And I think if the alien theory was correct, which I'm not agreeing to any of this, I'm just saying if Taylor's alien theory were to be kind of delved into, I think that narcissism is what changed the human race, and that Bigfoot was supposed to be sort of the missing link, what should have been, what could have been, but what wasn't.
I like that.
And that's just
I kind of feel like where we are now in life is like, survival of the fittest doesn't really have anything to do with nature anymore. It's, how do you survive the social, economy? How do you survive the social, aspects of everything around you? So it's like we can't even really expect to evolve the same way as we did in the past as an animal. What if we just stop evolving?
Well, it's kind of and this is a whole other conversation, but we kind of reached that point, I think, where our evolution is slowing.
Because I don't think so. I don't think because maybe physically evolution's changed, but like I have a strong belief system in the fact that like through medicine, through like the way we adapt and think, like not only like there's talks about us curing cancer, like us being able to like repair on a microscopic level our cells from aging, and that's evolving. Our thought process.
Is that evolving?
It's not evolving.
Is that evolving?
Yeah, I would say it's evolving. Evolution in our own species, being able to not die.
I think that's advancing. I don't think that's evolution.
No, well, they say that that humans, that Homo sapiens, like 50 years ago had like 30 whatever less years average between like whatever was like the average death rate was at 50 and now it's like 80, whatever the number is. I don't have it. I'm sorry. That's, in my opinion, evolving, adapting, living longer. I
think that's just. I think
that's kind of like the difference between weather and climate. Like it would take like 1,000 years of us having stopped the aging process. You know what I mean? Like to then look back and say we've evolved. This far.
because
you know what I mean?
We stopped growing hair on our faces or hair on our extremities, right? And we didn't stop growing hair altogether. We just stopped growing hair.
But it
on
wasn't
some
also.
parts.
It also wasn't like a one-day thing. It was like a gradual loss.
And that's
some
gonna
period of
happen
time.
we're not gonna just become able to live forever overnight.
Well, I think it's like
right, but I'm saying when we are physically making that change, so like let's say there's like a 50-year period where everyone is able to stop their aging, right?
Well, it's like gluten.
Like even
I want to hear this.
Like everyone in society, like literally everyone, can now stop their aging, right? But it's only been like 50 years. Like you can't consider it evolution because it has to. The scope of time,
evolution
technically has to be a lot greater to be called evolution.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it's 75 degrees here for 3 weeks, but that
that's a
doesn't
small
make it a tropical
scale.
climate.
That's a small scale. I think you're skewing it to a very small scale.
I think.
Purposely, yeah.
Well, exactly what Taylor's saying. Like I said, it's gluten, where gluten's always existed. Like a wheat byproduct has always existed. The catch is that we have the technology that has advanced. Technology is an evolution. Technology is technology. It's just tech. It's advancing, but it's allowing us to have more information. It's like going to a library. Like if people spent and could digest as many like books as there are in the world, I think people would be more aware of dietary concerns, of human body changes and functions. I think that we'd see more of that, but the internet you can digest at such a fast pace. I think that because people are going gluten-free, and now that's a big thing, it's because we have access to technology where we can read one sentence and feel like we know what we're talking about. That's not evolution.
I'm not saying that is. And I don't agree with the whole.
It's very close to what you're saying.
I'm not agreeing that becoming carnivorous is an evolutionary standard. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't think that because the carnivorous animals have been around for millions of years, or however long you want to say. depending on your religious perspectives. I'm not saying that at all. What I was pointing at is that I don't think evolutionary standpoints exclude the future. I think we are continuously. I don't think we stopped evolving at all. Like it's believed that in whatever 100, 200 years, we're all going to be black hair or brown eyes, brown hair, like fair skin, and all like a similar height. Like we're all ethnicity is going to change. All like language is going to be like considered English.
So why is that? Okay, so that's a great. And Taylor, you can probably jump on this too. So if you believe that that's going to be what the future is going to hold, why don't you believe in a species like Bigfoot existing that is consistent in terms of how it looks, how it sounds, all of that? Like it's essentially what you just described.
Yeah,
I feel like with that line of belief, it's more easy to believe that Sasquatch wouldn't exist anymore.
Wait.
Than that maybe it did exist, but it's
okay.
too far down the evolutionary path
to
where nothing else can exist, and we're starting to chip away at all these other things.
I could agree.
And all become the same.
Yeah.
Or we're at that crossing point to where the only way for it to not exist and us to not exist is to join and cross gene pools, and then that is how they would not exist.
That's where I lose you.
That's
where I lose you.
We would just not exist as the same as we are currently.
Well, here's the cross. I'm going to jump into this hypothetical. This one was the most fascinating to me. I only have 2 more hypotheticals written down, and then we can wrap up. But what if Bigfoot is a crossbreed between human and ape? So I wrote this hypothetical down, and this led me to a Wikipedia page. Which anything on Wikipedia you should believe
it's real.
Okay, so
my whole entire high school and college careers were based off.
I lost you for a second.
Thought we lost each other. So the Wikipedia page that led me was Human Z, which is a hypothetical chimpanzee human hybrid, which was has been attempted since the 1920s. Which is crazy. So it's actually been an attempt, and there.
Keep in mind, if there was a successful ape baby, like birthed from a human female, you best believe that all the governments would shut that down, right?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's been.
Because then people would just be off the hinges. There would be some people who'd be like, "I identify as half ape, half baby. I'm gonna go have a bunch of half ape babies."
Right.
And it'd be crazy.
It would change everything. Absolutely. But I think that's the biggest thing is that even it says in the 1970s, a performing chip named Oliver was popularized as a possible mutant or even a human chimpanzee hybrid. He had 48, not 47, but 48 chromosomes, disproving an earlier claim that he did not have a normal chromosome count for a chimpanzee. So... This has been a thing. A human Z has been the whole idea of crossbreed has been a thing since the 1920s, and they've been trying. Whether they have been successful, we won't know. We won't ever know
because of the government.
I feel like trying to cross a human with a chimpanzee has to have existed as far back
I would agree.
As humans and chimpanzees existed together.
Had sex drives. I get that.
Right. Well,
people have had sex with chimpanzees. No doubt.
Right. Well, it's just, and that comes down to curiosity.
Well, let's twist that around. Chimpanzees have definitely raped a lot of women.
Okay. What? Taylor. All right.
That's more likely than a bunch of dudes having sex with female chimpanzees.
I don't even think so. I disagree on that point 100% because I don't think...
You disagree?
I don't think...
You think that more males have had sex with a female chimpanzee than male chimpanzees have raped human women?
Yes. Well, chimpanzees have compassion. I think the curiosity of men as a species, it goes back to Zana. Like, people paid to have sex with her.
Men.
Out of curiosity. Yeah. And it's the same reason why, like, there are horses that people have sex with.
But the chimpanzee doesn't need that curiosity. It already wants it.
Like,
it already wants to go.
It's not smart enough to take off the clothes.
So I guess it just needs the opportunity.
Yeah, Johnny?
So would it have less opportunity than the male on a female chimpanzee?
Johnny's saying that the chimpanzee doesn't understand foreplay.
Oh, yeah.
Which therefore...
It doesn't know how to light candles, doesn't know how to say, oh, you're sweet, you're sweetheart.
It can never get to third base.
Yeah.
Therefore...
Yeah, sweet talk first. You gotta rub the thighs. kiss the nape of the neck, all that stuff. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't think a chimpanzee is smart enough to probably smarter than me. I also don't think it's smart enough to do all the things that you'd have to do in order to actually have sex.
Well, it's all.
I don't think so, man. I mean,
You think a chimp?
You know where to put it. It knows where to put
But
it.
it's all.
It
But there's
knows
more
it's
than
got
that. There's
something, and it
okay.
goes somewhere.
Personal experience. There's more that it takes than just saying, "Oh, I know where
We
my
don't need to.
dick
You don't need to
goes."
talk about your sex life.
I just know there's more that
Just
goes into
throwing
that
it in there,
than just
talking
being,
about chip sex, and he's like, "Oh well,
Guys,
from
from
experience,
personal
I just want to let you know you got to know where to put it."
Yeah.
There's a couple steps you got to
It goes
follow.
in one
I tried
point.
having sex with a chimp once. It was horrible.
I tell you, he was 15. He was at
It's a long story.
the Michigan Zoo. He's like,
Fairly
my gosh.
aggressive.
Okay, no, I'm saying I don't think a
Nah,
chimp's smart enough to do
I
that.
think that it would not be viable, or I think the chances. Hey, here I am biting my own tongue. I think that it is. If humans and chimpanzees could have babies, it would be well known
it would be.
because people would not be able to hide it.
It would be. And so this,
But-
yes,
But Bigfoots are out there and they're hidden.
No.
so.
they are. Well, yeah,
no,
okay.
no,
This
no.
brings me to my last hypothetical. Johnny, calm down.
All right, whatever.
So the last hypothetical I have before we wrap this damn thing up is that could the government, our government, be protecting Bigfoot by utilizing organizations like the BFRO and the North American Bigfoot Search, also known as NAB, to protect and preserve these elusive creatures? Could that be something? Why do they
could.
exist?
They could do that.
Unless it's in cahoots with our government.
They could do that. They could do a lot of things. They could be protecting Nessie. They could be protecting a whole the
We're not talking about Nessie.
Easter Bunny Man. They could do
We're
all
not
this different
talking
stuff.
about the Easter Bunny.
I'm just saying they could do a lot of this stuff. I agree. They could. I don't think they are. That's that.
I don't know if they forcefully could, but I think roundabout ways of life, like you can't just go anywhere you want in the United States. You can't just go out into the wilderness, even though it seems like you can. Oh, I'm just going to go camping off anywhere that I want. No, you can't. You got to go where you're allowed to camp. You can't just go anywhere you want in the wilderness.
But so
And
in that same perspective, you can't go in this specific spot in the woods. But if that were true and you couldn't go outside these boundaries and outside these boundaries were Bigfoot, I have a hard time believing Bigfoot's just abiding by the rules and also not going behind its parameters, because then it run into you.
But if in the case of
that's
Zana,
a good point, but
like talking about Zana though, if the whole submissive idea, so if there was like a preservation attempt and they kept reoccurring that they saw these creatures and let them know like, hey, we're here to help, would they become submissive and used to it? Sort of like when, at a zoo, when you're in captivity, you are getting used to the fact that there are people, there are humans who are kind of like getting up in your shit every single day. But we have stories from Zana and that whole idea that what if these Bigfoot are becoming submissive to the conservationists and the people trying
I've
to preserve.
heard those stories. I've heard stories of hunters going out and like getting chased down by Bigfoot, but and then they're all different conclusive. I heard one story of a lady who was camping and she had infrared vision and saw a couple big fi, whatever they were. They came in through the swamp.
Proper terms, Bigfoot, Johnny.
Big
You're gonna
Sasquatches.
take this as a joke. You can-
Sasquatches. I'm sorry, guys. And they are coming through a swamp, stand and leave. Like, there's a lot of different people, different studies, different like belief systems in it. I don't think we should just base it off of Zana, but each one of these different like interpretations of Bigfoot, there's not a way in hell nobody's captured it better in it being real. Like, this just, in my opinion, that it can't be feasible with the information I've been given and other people have given. I don't think it's a government. I don't think it's no.
It would change if someone caught a Bigfoot. It would completely flip everything in this world upside down.
I agree.
It would.
Yeah, like, how many times have you heard, like, oh my God, this is the first time the northern whispering owl has been captured on video. Oh, we've known it's existed for 200 years now, but we've never seen it. That shit happens.
I would say it's so much more likely you find like a species under the ocean, but this specific species of Bigfoot has been trying to be documented for so long. Hundreds of, I'm going to say thousands of people have been trying to find Bigfoot. Maybe like a couple hundred people are trying to find this stupid owl you're talking about, but like there's people have been searching and spent their lives for this animal, and they've not found it.
I don't think the people who found Bigfoot have wanted to find Bigfoot. I think all the stories you hear, people are like, no, I'm not really a believer, but I saw Bigfoot in my backyard eating out of my bird feeder.
I disagree. Yeah. I've had multiple occasions.
Bigfoot expedition is like, we went to this campground, we turned all our cameras on with all our lights on, we talked the whole time, we had a TV production there, we didn't say anything. All right,
No.
Next site.
Yeah, that's how they are. Like they're searching, but
They
they're
gotta
not
go
really
out and out and out, and probably like for weeks at a time.
Yeah,
like go do the Bear Grylls route. Like if you listen to Bear Grylls talk about it, or I mean
Les
Les
Stroud.
Stroud.
Yeah.
Sorry, Les. Yeah, talking about Les Stroud.
I've heard.
He's a Bigfoot guy,
He is a Bigfoot
and
guy.
he's out there by himself when he shoots a show. He's not out there with the production
Yeah,
team.
just on the camera.
He's got a lot of Bigfoot stories. You know, it's someone like that. You kind of like, oh man, maybe I start believing this kind of stuff.
I've heard certain stories of people who don't want to go out, people who wanted to go out. I can name one when I was in Blue Ridge Mountain was it Casper, Tennessee? No, it's Casper, Georgia.
Casper is a friendly ghost. John.
Jasper. Well, they're both mythological creatures.
Jasper's a hot spot, by the way.
Anyways,
Jasper, Georgia.
okay.
Also, location of the world's largest Sasquatch museum.
While I was there,
shout out.
While I was there, this is a fact. One of the owners, the wife, told me a story, and she wanted to find it, and she hypothetically found it. So I don't think people who don't want to find it, people who do want to find it, don't find it. I think that's no.
It's like looking for clothes. Like if you go out trying to find a really nice pair of pants, you're not going to find the pair of pants in the first place you go to. You got to search for it. The pants they have to find you.
People have spent their whole lives trying to find these pants.
The fate has to find you.
Fate has to find you.
People have spent their whole lives trying to find these pants, and they can't find the pants.
Yeah, people spend their whole lives trying to act in movies, but you know what? They wind up working at McDonald's.
But some people do. Some people actually do it. So how have nobody actually? How's nobody found the pants? How's nobody found the Bigfoot?
But people have been finding these pants, and people have been talking about
People
the pants.
have-
People have been telling you about the
People
pants.
have found some.
People have been writing books about the pants.
No. People
They've been making videos, podcasts. People talk about it, man. People really believe that they've seen it.
I know they believe.
And that's the documentation that we have to take into consideration.
Okay,
Like,
fine. That's
You have to believe someone.
If
You
that's-
don't have to believe what they're saying, but you have to at least give somebody a chance. Like, this is documentation.
Right. Would Mars. Okay, Mars is a great example because Curiosity rover's been on that shit for like 9 years.
But how do you know it's real? Because you haven't been there, Nick.
Well, that's what I'm trying to. That's the hype. That's the theory I'm trying to create, Johnny. I'm trying to say, if Pluto exists, and you've never been, but you've only seen bits of Pluto
I've seen pictures.
through video. You've seen pictures.
Only pictures.
I've seen Bigfoot. You've only seen pictures of Bigfoot. Why don't you believe in Bigfoot?
Because the mainstream, I sound like a little bitch right now. The mainstream belief is that Pluto is a planet, by the way, Johnny Clark, 2018, is a real planet. It's been documented. It's been believed for so long. We can send things to it, all these different things. But by our definition, by my definition, we cannot feasibly hold Bigfoot. We've sent things past Pluto. You know, we can actually watch its eclipse through other planets. You know, we can see its temperature. We can literally measure its temperature, its magnetic field, all that stuff. We can't even tell if a Bigfoot has a penis or if it has a vagina. We can't even.
We absolutely can. Zana was
Well,
actually
all those things that you just said, like all the things that you just said, we are sensing those things. Like, yeah, we have measured those things. We've measured the heat. We've measured heat that seems like something's there. We've got all these signs that seem like something's there, but we have not gone to go see it. You know, you see it on video, yeah, because our satellite passes it by, but you didn't see it.
Well, then I'll throw this to you, Taylor. If for some reason, if given this hypothetical, if I was given the information, the technology, whatever, to feasibly put Bigfoot at the same level as Pluto or Mars or any other planet that we're talking about, and I have never touched a jaguar, but if you gave me the same amount of evidence as a jaguar as Bigfoot, I'd be the same plane. I'm not excluding Bigfoot because of this evidence. I just don't have the same evidence. I never was brought up believing this because I never went to the zoo and saw one. I never saw Nat Geo, you know. It was always all that crazy, you know, hitchhiker guy saw one time and tried to kill me, you know. I've never had.
I see what you're saying.
I've never had as much evidence there. I've only seen.
You sound a lot like a naysayer.
I am. That's the whole point of this thing is I don't believe, and you guys are trying to put facts into my butt. And I just don't, you know, and I'll throw nothing at you. If this is an opinion I've had, you know, let's say there's 100 Bigfoot, whatever. Or let's say there's 100 Bigfoot and they live in a village, let's say in Jasper, Georgia. How has it not been like random people, a citizen like myself? How have I not found, seen, or documented them with the amount of technology that I have in my hands? If I really wanted to, I could scope out mountains of ranges and find these huge animals.
How many open woods have you been to, Johnny?
Me personally,
Yeah.
not a whole lot. 'Cause I don't
Exactly.
give a damn about that stuff. I know people do.
Yeah.
Like,
But most people who try to talk about it. The thing is that skeptics like you,
oh God,
shut them down.
Not true.
Yes,
that's
people
not true.
aren't open to it, which means like
that's not true.
These people who've been searching will say like it's like ghost hunters back when that show was on.
I believe
they
that
go
shit.
like, all right, when we turned our cameras off, this chair lifted up and then flew at Brian and then hit Brian in the head. And then he went home.
Did I hear Johnny just say he believes in ghosts?
I've had experiences. That's a big difference. That is a big difference. I believe
that's a big difference.
I think so. No, let me.
Okay, can you explain?
Wait.
Can you explain why you believe in ghosts
in a second.
and why you don't believe in Sasquatch?
Really quickly,
based on the evidence that you've been given for both.
Really quickly, I want to go back and say
we'll save most because we'll do a ghost episode.
Yeah, we should. Here now, let me go back and say one more thing about this whole Bigfoot and finding things.
All right, then we're gonna wrap this up.
I have never seen some of the species, even like some sharks under the ocean. I've never seen them, and I don't care to. But people out there have been and will be expert scuba divers and rescue divers who will scour the nautical globe for these things. I don't care to do it. I believe in it, though. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to disprove a species under the water because I haven't seen it, but I know people have. I know it's real because people actually have.
So you have faith in what they've told you?
I have faith in the publishing works that people always believe that those species are real.
Okay. So you're a faith-based Sasquatch believer, is that correct? Non-believer?
I think everyone is, right? Everyone's a faith-based blank on something, whether reality is real or that I'm actually holding this water bottle or whatever. Like, I believe this is here. Do I know it? No. So I don't think that's necessarily a good argument that I'm a faith-based non-believer.
No, I mean, that water bottle's clearly in your hand right now.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Clearly is. I have faith that it is in your hand because I cannot see.
Okay, let's
also, Taylor's not blind. He's just he's podcasting from Georgia, and we're podcasting
from Atlanta, Georgia today. Hey guys, I just want to note that this entire episode, I have been sitting in my Nada chair.
Really?
My posture is great. My back feels good.
I'm not.
Thank you, Nada Chair. I believe that's notachair.net. I have no fucking clue. It's good though.
So on that note, we'll call it. Guys, this is the first episode.
Episode number 1 in the books.
In the books. This is crazy. So next week, what's going to happen is that Taylor is actually going to host and do all the research for the next episode. We're not going to say what it is because Johnny is right here. He's not going to know. But you know what? I think the last thing we can say is, so Taylor is a believer. I'm a believer.
I'm skeptic.
Do you still remain has anything changed or swayed in like a little brief
Zana, right? That's her name?
Yes.
Zana was interesting.
She
I like
existed.
That. Let's not go that far.
I would like to dive deeper into her story.
Yeah, she existed. Guys, you can research.
I liked that
Zana.
story. It was interesting. Those kind of things. I've said this once, say it again. What changes my faith is real interaction with people and their stories. Not something off Wikipedia, not something off of, Nat Geo. Actual talking to somebody like the person at the Jasper site in Georgia, people who actually have conviction in their eyes to say it's real. So for the time being, I'm going to say I'm at the same point in time I was 2 hours ago. But thank you guys for trying your hardest to make me believe in big old Bigfoot.
Fair. Well, hopefully a lot of you guys listening were not like Johnny here. Hopefully we swayed you. I'm sure most people listening to this were skeptics first. And hopefully you came out of this hour and 26 minutes feeling a little bit more enlightened and enjoyed the exploration from probability to possibility with us here on Hybrothetical Thinking. Guys, I'm Nick.
I'm Johnny.
I'm Taylor.
And this has been episode 1 of Hybrothetical Thinking. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Adios.